Hi, this is Catherine with Circle Art Designs. Today we're doing Project 1 for the Bargain Bead Box for December. This will be dangles made with 2mm crystals and mixed metals. For this project, we are going to be using the 10 by 15mm brass lever back ear wires from the Bargain Bead Box, and the pattern coin and teardrop chandeliers. We have 4 of these. I am going to use these again in another project. And finally, from the Bargain Bead Box, the 5 by 4mm corrugated spacer beads. I love these beads. We're using a mixed metal for this, and I think they're going to be beautiful. You will also need the jump rings of your choice. I will be using oval. I will be using a brass one to join the dangles onto the chandelier, and then I will be using gold ones to join the components. I am using Bead-A-Lon 22 gauge dead soft wire to put these together. From my own stash again, I am using these 2mm bicone crystals. I picked these up at Hobby Lobby and I just love them. And I am also using 22 gauge head pins from Amazon. You will also need some size 11 seed beads. I'm using the gold because again I'm using mixed metals and I'm tying it all in. For your tools, you're going to need a good pair of wire cutters. You're going to need your needle nose pliers, also a couple of pliers to open up your jump rings. I use a curved pair and my chain nose. Okay, let's get started. I have made some of the components ahead of time. There are a lot of these little 4 bead components. We will be using the dark purple, the copper, antique copper look, and the yellow. I love this combination. You know, I ended up having to use pliers to get the the little crystals out because these are really little. Wait till we try using the 1mm from the bead box later. If you've watched anything I've done before, you'll know that I like to do the double roll for the end of my wire. So you're going to cut a pretty good amount of, or whatever you're comfortable with working with, of your 22 gauge wire, and you're going to, using your needle nose pliers, roll that into a circle twice. You'll also need to straighten out your wire after it's come off the roll. I usually do mine after I get the first roll in. And on this loop at the bottom, a lot of times it's okay if it just kind of goes to one side, but for these little components you really want that loop to line up right over the top of the wire. So you do that by just barely bending it at the base of the loop. Tell you, I was really surprised whenever these 2mm went on my 22 gauge wire, but I'm happy about that. Okay, we're going to need to string on 4 of these 2mm crystals. Okay, measuring across the width of your pointer finger, clip the wire at the top. This means the bead will touch at the bottom and you'll clip it at the top. This gives you enough room to roll it down 2 to 2.5 times. When using your needle nose pliers, You want to take the tip of that wire and just barely get it into the smallest part of your needle nose plier so that it's not hanging out. Otherwise you have a horrible little piece to try to cut off. And then just roll it down in little bitty steps until you get it 2 to 2.5 times and it's touching the bead below. And now you're going to want to take your pliers on both ends and twist them gently so that they're both facing the same direction. Make sure the loops stay over the middle of the beads. Okay, I twisted the bottom with my fingers, but as this goes along I use 2 because my fingers get real sore. Okay, we're going to twist down our wire and make the loop on the end. We're going to get a lot of practice doing this. There are 5 little dangles on each earring, and each earring has 2 dangles on it, and then it'll have a wrapped bead. Lots of practice. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I really do chase these beads a lot. And I will see you in just a minute. When making the components, they will all be made of 4 beads except for the wrap beads for the end. Correction, 3 beads on each component. I seem to have 4 on the brain today. We'll be repeating the same step. Put on 3 beads. You'll measure it across your pointer and clip it. Then you will, using your chain knot pliers, you will make the loop on the other side, making sure that the loops line up with the beads. Whatever color you choose for your first component, mine are the yellow, you will need 4 of those for 1 earring. If you want to do them all at the same time, then there would be 8 to do both. But I'm just showing you 1 earring. You know, something else I think I forgot to mention is that when I am turning these loops down, I never take the loop off of my needle nose pliers. I do a short rocking motion, just a very slight twist to keep the wire going around the point of the needle nose pliers. That's different whenever you're just making a single loop. So just slight turning until you get it to go all the way down till it touches the beads. We're ready to go on to the next component. Here you can see that rocking motion real well that I was talking about. I told you would get lots of practice making these little round loops. I really like them. So remember to straighten your wire, and now we're ready for the next color of component. Component number 2, I am using the antique copper bicones, and I'm going to need 4 of those. Components are made the same way as the previous component. You'll make your double loop at the end of your wire. You'll put on 3 beads. You'll clip it across the width of your pointer, and then you will twist it down to make the other end. Remember to twist with a rocking motion. You want to bend just under each of the loops once you're finished to make sure they line up with the beads in your component, and then straighten them out that they're both going the same direction. And that's it. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. Thank you. So I'm going to speed this up again until we come to the next section. I have to fidget with mine quite a bit to get them lined up or closed the way I want them to be. This is the last of the 4 that will be needed for one of the earrings. Any numbers I give you, you'll need to double if you're making all your components at the same time. I had never done this type of earring before, so I made one of the earrings before I decided to film making the second one. And I really like them. I was really surprised, I have to tell you. My daughter came through when she saw the first one finished and went, "Oh, Mom." I said, "Nope, don't look at it. I need to put something in the shop." But they'll probably go to her anyway. So for the last component, I'm using the dark purple. This will continue the same way with 3 beads on your wire, making your loops on both ends and making sure they line up. I made 4 of these, but really and truly, there are only 2 used in the pattern. At first I thought I was going to do a 3 dangle plus the bead on the bottom, but when I put it together, it was so long, or at least it seemed so long for me. I have a very short neck, that I took the bottom row off, and I like it much better. But if you want to use 3, they're really pretty and really long. So this last one that you have been watching me put together is with a bicone crystal AB flash. It's a little different. I only need 1. I only use it right in the middle in the first row. Sorry, I fell off the screen again. You know, after doing this for a little while, I have great respect for people who always know where their hands are on that screen. And as you can see, I've laid out the pattern for this earring. It will be your color number 2, which is the copper, then your color number 1, which for me is the yellow, then the last color, which is the AB flash, a yellow, and the copper in the first row. In the second row, you will have a deep purple, a copper, a yellow, a copper, and a deep purple. I'm setting up now to do the wrapped beads for the bottom. I will be using the 22 gauge pin heads, 11O seed bead in gold, and the copper beads from the Bargain Bead Box. I'm going to speed this up. One of the things we will be doing is when you take your pin head, you will put on an 11O seed bead, then your copper bead, and 11O seed bead. And you will then turn down and make the circle the same way you did for all the components. it should look something like this. I'm really sorry, my fingers have fallen off the screen again, but it's the same thing. You will need to put a seed bead, a brass bead, and a seed bead, and then roll down your pinhead till it touches the bead. You will need 4 of these because we're going to do the middle one just a little bit different. When I do the middle one, to make it just a little different because I wanted to stagger a little bit the bottom, I added a seed bead to the top. I tried adding it to the bottom, but it just looked kind of strange to me. But adding an extra seed bead to the top gives it a little more length when you roll down the end of your head pin. And now we're getting ready to join this together. Boy, that was a lot of components, wasn't it? I'll speed up this section. One of the things you need to know is I used gold oval jump rings to put the pieces together, but I put the dangles onto the chandelier with brass jump rings. If you want to get a staggered look to this piece, you can start out by putting the brass ovals on the chandelier, and then in your first hole you will add your dangle. In the second hole you will add an extra jump ring and your dangle. In your middle hole you will add 2 extra jump rings in your dangle. Then in the fourth hole you will go back adding only 2 extra jump rings, and in the last dangle add 1, just the original dangle. This gives it a staggered V look on the bottom, but I did not want that for this pair, so I just made them all a single jump ring when I joined them to the chandelier. So whether you start from the bottom and move up or the top and move down, it's the same process. The same procedure. You're going to take your jump ring and twist to open it. That means hold it in 2 pliers and twist 1 wrist. Do not pull it apart. Put on 1 component and the next component and close your jump ring. Then moving to the next section, whether it is the next component or the brass bead at the bottom, take another jump ring, twist, and add that component and close it. Make sure your closures are completely closed, because even though we roll this down, we can still lose some pieces if they're not completely closed. Having all 5 of your dangles finished, lay them out and make sure that you have your pattern the way you want it. Now is the time to move it around if you kind of shifted things around when you were putting them together. And we'll go ahead and join them to the chandelier with the brass oval jump rings. Amazing if we were all that fast in real life. How quickly my projects would get done. So when you use the gold wire and the gold jump rings, in the middle of this piece, along with the antique copper and the brass findings. The gold ends up being a component of itself, and just like when you do beadwork or weaving, bead weaving, the gold ends up following a line as if you were putting gold beads there, and I really like the look that it gives the piece. Now we need to put the hook onto the chandelier earring. We will use 2 of the oval brass jump rings. I use 2 because I want it to face forward. So I will put one on to the chandelier itself and the other jump ring at the same time. Then opening up the second jump ring, I will add that to the hook. And there you have it. Aren't they beautiful? I hope you've had a wonderful time going on this adventure with me today. Happy beading, y'all. May your day be blessed. Catherine, Circle Art Designs.